Car chases, car crashes, shootouts, more car chases, some tackling, and William Shatner as the title character, Sergeant T.J. Hooker.
I'm going over everything on this case myself. The witnesses, the evidence, and that suspect.
A tough but compassionate cop, leading this action-packed police drama for 5 seasons in the mid-80s. The show followed Hooker and his partner Vince Romano as they battled crime on the mean streets of LA. And with a mix of humor and suspense, T.J. Hooker kept viewers entertained, especially with the emergence of a beyond charismatic blonde bombshell in Heather Locklear.
I was just trying to be friendly.
I'm your host, Nostalgic Nick, and today we're revisiting the cast of T.J. Hooker to see what led them to the show, and more importantly, what they're up to today. We'll find out why all the recurring actors had to be below 5'9", and why all the cop cars produced so much smoke. That's not normal, but what is normal is smashing that thumbs up icon to show support. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a roundup. But without further ado, let's go catch some perps. Or maybe we'll lose them in the car chase, but we'll find them later, about 46 minutes later. William Shatner. Sergeant T.J. Hooker was dedicated to his job protecting the citizens of LA.
Hold it right there!
And after witnessing the death of his partner, he vowed to take down criminals that led to his partner's demise. He's an expert in hand-to-hand combat, which comes in handy apprehending criminals. Criminals Hooker usually lost sight of in the initial car chase. And Shatner was very Shatner.
He just ran out of fiber.
If you asked him, he was superb. But to me, he was kinda like Jack Lord from Hawaii Five-0. Dramatic and stylized, but it did kinda work for this role. He made his first TV appearance in a children's program you'll certainly remember, The Howdy Doody Show, where he created the role of Ranger Bob, co-starring with a cast of puppets and Clarabelle the Clown. And 4 years later, he got his first film role, 1958's The Brothers Karamazov. He played Alexei, the youngest brother to Yul Brynner. In 1964, Bill was cast in a season 1 episode of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And that episode featured Leonard Nimoy, predating their long Star Trek partnership. His Captain James Kirk is certainly his most iconic character, and it might be up there with any franchise's lead. However, this iconic role became a detriment when Star Trek flew off the air.
I'm losing command.
He felt he had been typecast, forcing a career dip filled mostly with B-movies, like Roger Corman's Big Bad Mama in 1974, and the horror film The Devil's Reign in 1975. So Shatner became a regular on game shows like Hollywood Squares and Match Game. But fans of Star Trek were not about to let the show or Shatner's career bite the dust. They began organizing conventions, and with the explosion of space interest now in Hollywood, mostly due to George Lucas's Star Wars, Paramount too began producing Star Trek the Motion Picture. In recent years, Shatner has still been acting, from spinning off The Practice for a 5-season run of Boston Legal, to just in 2021 where he co-starred with Christopher Lloyd and Gene Smart in Senior Moment. Today, he is 91 years old, and in his spare time, he enjoys breeding and showing American saddlebreds and quarter horses. And the Shatner also got closer to the stars when he took a flight to space, part of Blue Origin's second suborbital human spaceflight. Hey, we're just glad the spaceman made it back to our homey rock. ADRIAN ZMED. Officer Vince Romano is Sergeant Hooker's new partner, a level-headed cop and voice of reason for the duo.
You tell me this is right. You tell me this is the way it's supposed to be.
But although much younger than TJ, Shatner's Hooker was still the faster runner, which is, yeah, about in line with the realism of the show. ADRIAN ZMED began acting as Danny Zuko in the national touring production of Grease. He later appeared on Broadway 3 times, twice as Zuko, and he followed the Grease love to Grease 2, where he played Johnny Nogarelli.
'Cause you know that he's
In 1980, ADRIAN was cast in the Annie Potts-led series Good Time Girls, playing a 2 flat-footed military reject turned cab driver in the 40s. And then he co-starred with Tom Hanks in Bachelor Party, the same year he became Romano. He left T.J. Hooker in 1985 when it moved to CBS, choosing instead to replace Denny Terrio as host of Dance Fever for its final 2 seasons. But his acting career never reached primetime again. Today, ZMED is 68 years old, and the last time we saw him act was as a version of himself in 2 episodes of the Netflix show Lady Dynamite. He also had his own show on Princess Cruise Lines in the 2000s, and we're very glad to hear this fella is still afloat. Heather Locklear. Officer Stacy Sheridan is a rookie cop who is eager to prove herself. She's spunky, absolutely stunning, and oftentimes impulsive, which can get her into trouble. But with her piercing blue eyes and silky blonde hair, Heather Locklear was the 1980s poster child for Girl Next Door. She rose to fame as the scheming niece on ABC's Dynasty,
Well, what do y'all do around here for kicks?
appearing at the same time as she was taking down bad guys on TJ Hooker. Post-80s Locklear continued her TV dominance, starring in Melrose Place in the 90s and Spin City throughout the early 2000s. While she still makes TV appearances, sadly Locklear is in the news recently for a far more personal and health-related issue. In 2018, she was arrested twice for 2 separate instances of battery and was hospitalized with a suspected overdose on prescription medication. Locklear has since become sober and is reportedly doing well. We recently saw her in the titular role for the TV movie Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, the Christine Carlson story in 2021. Today, Heather is 60 years old, and we hope it's only the up and up for her. Richard Hurd. Captain Dennis Sheridan is the father of Heather Locklear's character and the captain of the police precinct. He's a no-nonsense cop who expects his officers to follow the rules.
Know the book, Hooker. You're too personally involved, so just back off.
Dennis.
Richard Hurd began acting in the early 70s and is known for a prolific career for decades, as well as having a striking resemblance to Hollywood elite Carl Malden. I mean, just wow. He got his film debut in Hercules in New York in 1970, but his big break was probably 1979's The China Syndrome. After his success in TJ Hooker, he also appeared on shows like Seinfeld, wonderfully playing George Costanza's boss at the Yankees. He made his final film appearance in the Clint Eastwood film The Mule in 2018, as he was diagnosed with cancer and died in May of 2020 at the age of 87. Richard Hurd was inducted into the National Broadcaster Hall of Fame for his work in old-time radio. HUGH FARRINGTON. Lieutenant Pete O'Brien is a tough, inexperienced detective who has seen it all.
Well, they're the new breed, JP, and you're retired. It makes them uncomfortable, you know what I mean?
Farrington had a short-lived acting career that began in the early 80s. Aside from TJ Hooker, he held roles in The Terminator, Arizona Heat, Caged Fury, and The Golden Girls, which was his final acting credit in 1990. HUGH Farrington was injured while serving in the United States Navy and acted while using a wheelchair. Sadly, HUGH passed away in 2001 at the age of 70 at his house in Port St. Lucie, Florida. James DARREN. Officer Jim Corrigan was one heck of a pretty cop, almost as pretty as Locklear, and he was not afraid to break the rules to get the job done.
You said she was ready, Hooker, and I believed you. Damn! Is this what you call ready?
Darren's entry into Hollywood was in a series of teenage-themed films, which proved difficult to escape the teen idol image. You might recall him from Gidget and Gidget Goes Hawaiian in 1961. Most people to this day still refer to him as Moondoggie. He also gained fame in the early and mid-60s as a singer. Several hits to his name, like Her Royal Majesty and Goodbye Cruel World, which hit number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1961.
The mean, fickle woman turned my whole world upside down.
The song sold over 1 million copies and went gold. And Darren also provided the singing voice for Yogi Bear in the animated film Hey There, It's Yogi Bear in 1964. So he did all this while balancing guest starring roles on shows like Charlie's Angels and Hawaii Five-0. We also saw him as the host of Portrait of a Legend in the 70s and 80s. Beginning with an episode of TJ Hooker, he began dabbling in directing, most notably 7 episodes of Hunter, and his last directing effort was 2 episodes of Melrose Place for season 5, where he got to reunite with his good friend Heather Locklear. In the late 90s, he achieved newfound popularity through his singing hologram Vic Fontaine. That was on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
That's not the point. You've got to sell it. Style, baby, style. Make it believe.
Today, Darren is 86 years old, and after a 16-year hiatus, he returned to set, acting in 2017 for the Harry Dean Stanton film titled Lucky. And honestly, we're just lucky that Darren is still going strong. He's been married to former Miss 1958 Denmark, Evie Norland, since 1960, and the two have 2 children together. T.J. Hooker was one of the most popular police series of the 80s and 90s. So why were all the regular actors 5'9" or shorter? Of course that's because no one could tower over the shorter William Shatner. Even taller guest stars had to be shot in separate shots to avoid this tall problem. As for the cop cars producing so much smoke, that's because the car was a 1977 Dodge Monaco, which as of the 1982 debut of the show was already 5 years old. All of the cars used were high-mileage surplus units from police agencies, so that smoke was oil burning due to the high mileage. But enough of me, now I want to hear from you.
Resist arrest. Resist arrest.
What was a great episode of T.J. Hooker you recall? Who was your favorite character? And where does this one rank against the greatest police series of all time? Get in the comments and tell me your thoughts. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a memory. But from all of us here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you for watching.